Number 10, Jon Moxley vs Joey Janela, Fyter Fest 2019. Most matches involving Jon Moxley often end in bloodshed, but Joey Janela is no stranger to that either. At AEW's first ever Fyter Fest in 2019, Moxley and Janela faced off in AEW's first ever unsanctioned match, so both men were out to put on a show. This was Moxley's first match in the promotion as well, and he clearly enjoyed the chance to go back to his hardcore roots after leaving WWE. The usual tables, ladders and chairs were used, but things went up a level when barbed wire and thumbtacks were introduced. Janela and Moxley both had a great showing during this matchup, but the war would come to an end when Moxley eventually hit the paradigm shift onto a pile of thumbtacks for the win. Tacks could be seen sticking out of Janela's feet, but going forwards, both men had set the bar for what audiences could expect out of AEW. Number 9, Kenny Omega vs Joey Janela, Dark 2019. As if Joey Janela's war with Moxley wasn't enough, he also faced off against Kenny Omega on AEW Dark in an unsanctioned match. It took place on just the second ever episode of AEW Dark and was a great way of getting fans' attention by offering something that would end up being quite different than the kinds of matches people would soon come to expect from the show. Both men put on a show as if they were fighting on a pay-per-view, with the usual weaponry on show and taking some big bumps. This match also featured two of the most brutal spots in AEW history. Firstly, Omega would throw Janela off the top rope, back first onto the edge of several steel chairs stacked up, instantly followed by a one-winged angel onto a steel chair for the win. What makes this even more shocking is that both spots happened within a minute of each other. This match would have stole the show whatever card it had been placed on. Number 8, Best Friends vs Santana and Ortiz, Dynamite 2020. Both of these teams are often featured in the mid-card of AEW, but this bout proved they can take it to the next level. Both teams would face off in a parking lot brawl on an episode of AEW Dynamite. This match exceeded expectations and was something never before seen in AEW. As all four men battled it out surrounded by cars and onlookers, weaponry and the cars themselves were used to great extent in some creative and brutal spots. Hardway blood was even on show after going through windshields and falling on hoods. A crazy finish even saw Trent hit his finisher through a plank of wood on the back of a truck. As if this match wasn't crazy enough, Orange Cassidy even made an appearance out of the boot of a car, as well as Trent's mum driving them away after such a brutal spectacle. Number 7, Tay Conti and Anna Jay vs The Bunny and Penelope Ford, New Year's Smash 2021. In one of the more underrated matches on this list, the women of AEW were out to prove that they can be just as extreme as the men, if not more. In what turned into a bloody battle, barbed wire and thumbtacks were on show, including some scary bumps such as a piledriver through a table and a superplex onto a pile of thumbtacks. This shocking war would come to an end when Anna Jay wrapped her own arm in barbed wire and locked in a sleeper hold on the Bunny. This turned into one of the best women's tag matches in AEW history and showcased the advantages of hardcore wrestling, showing that sometimes the best way to grab the audience's attention is to go all out extreme. Number 6, Jon Moxley vs Kenny Omega, Revolution 2021. Jon Moxley and Kenny Omega took their rivalry to the next level when they fought for the AEW World Heavyweight title in an exploding barbed wire death match. This was a first for AEW and a first for any major North American wrestling promotion. The gimmick match was taken from Japan, where the ring ropes are replaced with barbed wire and explosives are set to go off after a countdown expires. The match itself is actually very good considering the stipulation, but it is often overshadowed by the botch explosion at the finish. Nonetheless, this was still an all-out war with excessive use of barbed wire boards and bats, and even an impressive looking explosions going off when either man would hit the barbed wire ropes. The match drew great numbers for AEW and was pretty solid up until the botched ending, but either way this helped set a new level of violence for AEW going forward. Number 5, Cody Rhodes vs Andrade El Idolo, Dynamite 2021. Cody Rhodes and Andrade El Idolo settled their differences once and for all in an all-out street fight on AEW Dynamite. Andrade set the tone for the match when he came out looking like a legit hitman. The majority of this match is a solid street fight with Cody being busted open. However, the ending is what soon became one of AEW's most extreme and memorable moments. As Cody went to secure the win, a flaming table was set up in the ring, and Cody proceeded to reverse DDT Andrade through the table. Although you'll see throughout the match that Cody had a flame-resistant gel on his back, this still wasn't enough to save him, as he would suffer several burns to his back. Fire itself is unpredictable to use, and is often saved for the most extreme of moments, which places it firmly onto this list. Number 4. Britt Baker vs Thunder Rosa, St. Patrick's Day Slam 2021. This match ended up being a milestone in women's wrestling for AEW, effectively the match that sprung Britt Baker into the position she's in today. This was just the third lights out match in AEW history and the first between two women. More importantly, this was the first time women had main evented an AEW event of any significance. It turned out to be one of AEW's best matches ever, and the two women tore the house down and earned the respect of fans and wrestlers alike. The bout was as bloody and brutal as what we had seen the men do, with a variety of weapons being used to great effect as both women were busted open with an iconic shot of Britt Baker's face sporting the crimson mask. From thumbtacks to tables, nothing was held back until Thunder Rosa eventually picked up the emotional win in a war that is still talked about to this day. Number 3. Kenny Omega vs Jon Moxley, Full Gear 2019. Speaking of lights out matches, the Jon Moxley and Kenny Omega feud of 2019 would lead to this. Moxley is well known for his hardcore style, but there is a lot of curiosity going into this match as to how Kenny Omega would fare in such an extreme stipulation. As the bell rang, Omega would just show how comfortable he can be in these match types, with both men using everything from broken glass, mouse traps, and even a screwdriver to inflict punishment on each other. From raking a barbed wire broom across Moxley's back to both men falling into a pit of barbed wire, this match held nothing back. As both men brawled around the arena, and an unforgettable finish saw the bare wooden boards under the ring being exposed as both men took heavy bumps onto it, until Moxley hit the paradigm shift for the win, leaving fans aghast at the grisly 40-minute war they had just witnessed. Number 2. Chris Jericho vs Nick Gage, Fight for the Fallen 2021. As part of the MJF and Chris Jericho feud of 2021, MJF had set up multiple labors of Jericho in order for Jericho to be given a match with MJF. The second labor pitched Jericho against the hardcore god himself, indie star Nick Gage. Fans were shocked at the surprise, and it was rare to see Jericho in these types of death matches. However, Y2J is a master of adaptation, and as Nick Gage introduced weapons such as glass, light bulbs, and his signature pizza cutter into the match, the violence would quickly escalate. Jericho would end up a bloody mess, enduring Gage's weaponry offense until he managed to fight back and even hit a Hurricane Runner to Gage through a panel of glass set up in the ring. Jericho would go on to win the match and came out of it looking like he had been attacked by a pack of wolves. No doubt this was a highlight in both men's career when it comes to the extreme. Number 1. Blood and Guts, Dynamite 2022. If you want the most brutality possible all packed into one, this match, AEW's second annual Blood and Guts, is the one for you. With two teams of 6 facing off inside the structure, this is AEW's take on the classic War Games. The match produced all sorts of incredible visuals, whether it was Claudio Castagnoli, giant swinging Chris Jericho on the top of the cage, or Angelo Parker hanging upside down from a support beam, drenched in his own blood. Everyone had a chance to shine within this war, and the match itself topped the first ever Blood and Guts. A legitimate leg injury to Santana was the only thing that tarnished an otherwise an amazing night. Thumbtacks, chairs, and the ring boards were all used to inflict punishment, including an amazing spot where Eddie Kingston threw Sammy Guevara off the top of the steel cage to the stage below. Wrestlers like Jon Moxley and Eddie Kingston were naturals for this kind of battle, but even wrestlers you might not expect to thrive, like 2.0 and Wheeler Yuta ended up doing well. The finish would see Kingston and Claudio force the Jericho Appreciation Society to tap out on top of the cage in what proved to be perhaps the most extreme match in AEW history. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to subscribe for more wrestling content.